Daily meal prep has the potential to take you from frazzled and feeling hopeless to getting a homemade healthy meal on the table every night without major amounts of effort. It's something I started doing when I had little kids, ages 6 and under. When I kept up with it, I felt like I had everything under control. I felt calm and free. My goal at first was to just spend 15 minutes doing something to make future meals a bit easier. The thing that made it work so well for me was writing it down and seeing the progress I was making. I like to feel accomplished, and this really did the trick. Okay, enough chit-chat. I'm going to show you what a week of daily 15-minute meal prep looks like for me. Warning, it looks so simple, you might be tempted to click away and never actually try it for yourself. But if you're anything like me, you probably need simple. If you aren't consistently getting healthy meals on the table, and you want to be, you absolutely can benefit from doing daily meal prep. So please do yourself a favor and actually implement this into your daily life. Make it a habit. Oh, I would actually love to share this amazing 15-minute meal prep habit tracker with you. So just click on the link in the description and you can download it right from there. All right, let's get right into the first meal prep task of the week. When I have nothing healthy prepared in the house, I almost always start with chicken stock. It's rare for me to go more than a week without making chicken or meat stock. Because I no longer buy the cans of chicken broth or chicken bouillon cubes or powder, I have to keep homemade stock on hand. Lately, since it's summer, I will make it and then freeze whatever I don't need for the week. If I keep this up, my freezer is going to be plenty stocked with chicken stock, pun intended, this fall and winter. And I'll be able to make all the soup I want. I used to remove the fat layer on top of the chicken stock before using it, but I actually keep that on now and even freeze it with the stock. I've been prioritizing adding healthy fats into my family's diet, and every little bit helps. You can make chicken stock on the stove or in a slow cooker, but my favorite way is in the Instant Pot. It's completely hands-off, and I can do it overnight or while I'm away from home without worrying about it. If I had a slow cooker, I'd probably do it that way every so often as well. But you can't beat the speed of a pressure cooker. Hands-on time to get everything into the pot is probably about 10 minutes. Straining it takes about another 10 to 15 minutes, and then freezing takes another 10 or so minutes. So it's not technically a 15-minute task, but it can be done in 15-minute spurts when you have some downtime. The second day of daily meal prep is another one I do quite a bit, and that's freeze bananas. When my kids were toddlers, they ate so many bananas. Well, one day, they just stopped wanting so many bananas. But I decided to keep buying the same amount because I found that if I always bought extra bananas, I could freeze some and have them on hand for smoothies. It's rare for us to have a smoothie without frozen bananas. They're just perfect for any smoothie. They add creaminess and sweetness, and I haven't found any natural ingredient that can do that as well as a banana. In our house, we don't make a lot of baked goods anymore because we try to be as gluten-free as possible. But I know people who freeze brown bananas and use them in their baked goods. I would assume they need to be far more brown than the ones I used here. Some people like to cut them up all nice, lay them on a baking sheet, flash freeze them, and then put them in freezer bags. But I am all about efficiency in my house. I just break them up into the freezer bags and lay them as flat as possible in the freezer. It probably takes less than 10 minutes with cleanup to freeze 2 bunches of bananas like I did here. On the third day, I made homemade mayonnaise. We completely stopped buying mayo more than a year ago because we were tired of the seed oils present in store-bought mayo. Is homemade mayo cheaper than store-bought mayo? No, it's actually more expensive. But I am willing to pay a premium when I know that the food I am making is better for my family. We don't use mayo nearly as much as we did when we used to buy it. I usually make it 1 or 2 times every month, and if we're out, I will only make more if I need it for a meal coming up. A word of caution about using raw eggs. Don't make this at home if you plan to make this with store-bought eggs, even if they're organic or free range. You need to know the source of the eggs without a shadow of a doubt. Besides, even so-called healthier eggs are washed, and washing the eggs removes the protective barrier and allows bacteria to easily seep through the shell and into the egg. We don't wash our eggs in our house, so they don't have the potential to get bacteria in them and compromise them. Making mayo takes a matter of minutes, but with cleanup, I would say it can be about 15 minutes overall. On day 4, I decided to make some refried beans. It was perfect because I had just made chicken stock a few days before, and the recipe for refried beans calls for chicken stock. I did have to do a little prep the day before in order to make these beans. I like to soak my beans overnight with some apple cider vinegar to make the beans more digestible, so that's what I did. I always make refried beans in the Instant Pot, again because it's totally hands-off once everything is in there. I prefer to make the beans the day before I need them, but on this particular evening I was using them as part of our dinner, so I had to get them pureed pretty soon after they were done cooking. The leftover refried beans I just decided to freeze, and it's so easy to do that. You could put them into a freezer bag and lay it flat in the freezer, or do what I do and freeze in silicone muffin cups. When I need refried beans for something, I'll get out 1 or 2 muffin cups and let them thaw in the fridge. I probably spent a total of 30 minutes with the prep of the beans, but it was spread out over a couple different times in the day. I do want to mention that just because I call it 15-minute meal prep doesn't mean you have to spend 15 minutes on it. Some days might be hectic and all you can muster is a couple minutes of prep time, and that's no problem at all. It's really forward momentum that matters. Even just removing some meat from the freezer is a great daily meal prep task. On the 5th day, I needed to make some hard-boiled eggs. We get fresh eggs from our backyard chickens, so I like to keep a dozen eggs at any given time in the fridge and let them sit there for at least 2 weeks, because if I were to use them soon after our chickens laid them, I would have a much harder time peeling them. I make hard-boiled eggs both in a saucepan on the stove and in the Instant Pot, but I prefer the Instant Pot because it's the best way I've found to make sure the eggs are so much easier to peel. I usually only cook 12 or fewer eggs at a time, but lately I've been noticing that 12 is too much for my family. My kids used to enjoy hard-boiled eggs, but they just don't like them as much anymore. They really like them when they're still warm right after being cooked, but if I pull them from the fridge and they're cold, they usually won't choose to eat them. After the eggs have cooled down in some ice, I will peel them all just to make it easier to use them in whatever way I need in the future. Hands-on time for making and peeling the eggs is probably at least 20 minutes, but can vary based on how many eggs you're using and the method you're using to cook them. The next day, I cooked up some bacon in the oven so I could break it into smaller pieces and use it on barbecue chicken pizza. So good. I always keep the bacon grease to use in cooking. I went way too long not knowing this amazing little tip, so I like to bring it up over and over in hopes of helping someone else realize they too can save their bacon grease and use it for cooking. The amount of hands-on time you need to cook bacon and break it up is definitely less than 20 minutes, but you will need to stick around your house for at least 40 minutes if you figure in cooking time. This next little segment was not something I had planned on doing for my daily meal prep task, but I really needed to get it done, so I filmed it anyway. I had to get in my freezer to get out some chicken breast. My plan was to make homemade chicken lunch meat, and I've linked the recipe in the description below. So you can actually use the chicken breast while it's still pretty frozen. I only let it thaw in my fridge for less than 24 hours, so it was still stiff, but not completely frozen solid when I used it. Homemade lunch meat is so easy, and all the ingredients are safe for human consumption. I stopped buying lunch meat when we gave up sandwich bread and crackers, but I wish I had stopped buying it long before that. It's just not a food that I want my family eating. I've found that once you cook the meat and slice it or dice it, it freezes so well. You can get it out and let it thaw for a few hours and use it just like you would lunch meat. The taste is so much better, and you know it's real. The last day of the week, I had to make oat milk. When my second daughter was just 4, she started showing signs of dairy sensitivity. And strangely, I did as well, pretty much at the exact same time. So we started drinking almond milk from the store. After several years of buying almond milk, I decided to start making it. It wasn't cheaper, but I didn't care for the ingredients in store-bought almond milk, nor did I really like the taste. Once we started making almond milk, we tried making other milks, and one of them was oat milk. I really have a love-hate relationship with oat milk. I love it because you can make it and drink it within 15 or 20 minutes. But I really hate oat milk because it tends to be slimy, and the taste is just weird to me. So the only reason I make oat milk now is if I don't have any almonds to make almond milk, and I need milk, like, now. I will use it in smoothies or to make overnight oats, but we generally don't drink oat milk. It takes about 15 minutes from start to finish, with the most amount of time milking it in a nut milk bag. Alright, I've got a bonus daily meal prep task coming at ya. If you stuck with me this far, I bet you're just ready to get started with daily meal prep. Quick reminder that you can download my incredibly helpful 15-minute meal prep habit tracker by clicking on the link in the description. So this last task was shredding cheese. I rarely buy pre-shredded cheese, mainly because I really don't like the anti-caking agent that they add to it, but also because I did a price comparison once, and a block of cheese won as far as price goes. I'll link that price comparison down below as well. I decided to shred all the mozzarella I needed for pizza several days ahead of time, so I didn't have to worry about doing it on the day that I made the pizza. I think my meal prep time was right around 15 minutes to shred 4 blocks of cheese. I sure do hope you got something valuable from this video, and I really appreciate you stopping by to watch it. Please comment below if you've ever tried daily meal prep, or if you want to try it. We'll see you next time.